Hello, and welcome back to this series of early years videos from the North Somerset Educational Psychology Service. Today I want to address a common concern about preschool-aged children's behaviour, which is biting. Biting is something that can be challenging and unpleasant for everyone in an early years setting. So, in this presentation I will share practical tips and suggestions for reducing biting in early years settings. We will look at why children bite, and then some games and activities which help meet children's needs and develop their skills without needing to bite anymore. Perhaps the most important thing to bear in mind about biting is that behaviour is communication. This means that when we see behaviour such as biting, we need to recognise that it is an attempt by a child to express a need or emotion. By doing this, we can help them find safer alternatives to biting and also help them communicate their needs in more effective ways. When we see a child biting, we are only seeing the tip of the iceberg. There is always more going on underneath the surface which props up the biting behaviour. A child who bites might be expressing frustration, pain from teething, that they're seeking attention, exploring boundaries, or copying others. If we want to address and reduce biting behaviour in our settings, we need to work out what the child is attempting to communicate when they bite. So, let's look at some examples of what we can do in early years settings to reduce biting. Sometimes biting is what we see when a child wants to communicate that they are cross or frustrated. We need to help these children by teaching them to communicate their feelings. We can start by playing games and developing routines where children use words rather than behaviour to communicate emotions. We can ask children to label their emotions using emotions charts, or, for older children, we can ask them to label the emotions of characters in stories. When children have the words they need to communicate an emotion, they may not need to use their biting behaviour to do so anymore. We can also help children learn to communicate their emotions by role modelling how we talk about our own feelings. A nice simple example of this is using I statements to label our own needs. We might say to children, "I'm sad because it's raining and we can't go outside." And by doing this, we are showing them how to express emotions using words rather than behaviour. Lastly, when children are labeling their own feelings using words or signs, we need to reassure them that we understand and we care. We could use a short script to do this, which will become something that children regularly hear from us. For example, "Thank you for telling me how you feel. Now I know how to help you." If children get used to hearing phrases like this from us, they will learn over time that using words is more effective than using behaviour to gain help from adults. Our second top tip, after helping children to communicate their emotions, is to teach them about empathy or putting themselves in the shoes of other people. Sometimes children bite because they do not understand how their actions will affect other people. We need to help children understand and empathise with other people's feelings. One way we can do this is through the use of storytelling. There are loads of children's books about biting. In general, they focus on a character whose life becomes happier and more fun after they have learned to stop biting. They can be read to groups of children during circle time and story time routines. Some children, particularly those with delayed language and communication skills, will also benefit from social stories about biting. Social stories are especially useful for children with autistic spectrum conditions, and they look like comic strips. They have more pictures and fewer words than most children's stories. They use very clear, specific language to tell stories about the consequences of biting and alternative ways to handle frustration or conflict. There are some lovely free printable examples in the TES, which is the Times Educational Supplement, website. As well as teaching communication skills and empathy, we can try to reinforce positive behaviour in our settings. Sometimes children can learn that biting is a guaranteed way of gaining adult attention, which often feels rewarding for them. In these scenarios, we need to notice children using positive, non-biting behaviour and give them loud and public praise. Whenever we see children that use words to label their feelings, share, take turns, or resolve conflicts peacefully, we should try to provide specific praise, attention, and other rewards. This process can be enhanced by the use of clear visual rewards such as stickers and positive behaviour charts. Wherever and whenever we can, we want to catch children being good and reward them. We might say, "I saw you waiting for your turn with the scooter. Let's find you a lovely sticker." As well as helping children express their feelings to others, we want to help them solve problems and conflicts. Sometimes biting can reflect that a child does not know how to solve problems or resolve differences with others. It can often be a last resort when a toy has been taken or is not being shared. We need to teach these children problem-solving techniques, such as finding compromises or asking an adult for help. Two nice examples of this are puppet play and role play. With puppets, and we don't need anything fancy here, even lollipop stick puppets will work, we can create situations which include frustration or conflict. We need to identify the emotions of the characters and encourage children to guide them towards peaceful resolutions, for example, asking an adult for help, or going and finding a different toy. With older children, we might even ask them to act out similar scenarios using role play. Again, the idea is to get children on board with labeling the characters' feelings and making helpful suggestions which don't involve biting. Finally, one of the most obvious things we can do is make rules about biting in our setting. This sounds simple, but for preschoolers, simply telling them the rules may not be enough. They may not understand our language, or if they do, they may forget what we have told them when they experience strong emotions. Two tactics for helping young children learn or remember rules more quickly are to use visual symbols and consistent scripts. To make rules clear and understandable to preschool children, especially children with delayed language or whose first language isn't English, we need to include visual symbols and pictures. We also need to give consistent responses to biting. For example, developing a shared script among staff such as, "We do not bite here because we don't want anyone to feel sad." Like the songs and rhymes we repeat every day, consistent scripts help children learn and remember. So, to summarize, addressing biting behavior in preschool-aged children requires understanding and patience. Sometimes the solution will be something as simple as giving them a chewy toy because they're teething. In other situations, we may need to develop routines and scripts that children learn from gradually over time. However we do it, promoting effective communication, teaching empathy, reinforcing positive behavior, encouraging problem-solving skills, and setting clear boundaries and rules, we can and we will help children find ways of communicating and interacting which do not include biting. And finally, let's not forget about safeguarding. Challenging behaviours in young children can sometimes indicate an underlying safeguarding need. As an early years practitioner, it's vital that you keep this in mind when supporting children who exhibit concerning behaviours like throwing, biting, fears and phobias, or separation anxiety. Remember, all behaviour communicates an unmet need. Take time to understand the possible function of the behaviour and what the child may be trying to communicate through their actions. Could the behaviour be a reaction to feeling unsafe or vulnerable in some way? Could the behaviour be a reflection of what the child has experienced at home? We need to make safeguarding a priority by looking beyond the behaviour to identify any potential welfare concerns. Be alert to signs of neglect, abuse, or exposure to domestic violence. Work closely with families, but avoid making assumptions. Focus on listening and building trust. Where you have any safeguarding concerns, no matter how small, ensure you follow your setting's procedures and protocols. Record observations accurately and factually. Seek support from your designated safeguarding lead if you need guidance. With sensitivity, care, and professional curiosity, we can ensure early years settings are safe places where children's well-being is protected and they can thrive. Let's work together to keep children safe. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you found this video useful.